March 20th, 2025. One of the most anticipated games in one of the most disrespected franchises of all time releases. Assassin's Creed Shadows. And no, I am not exaggerating, let's be honest here. An Assassin's Creed set in Japan has been in the top list of every single Assassin's Creed fan since its creation. The game released to high praise from the press, which, doesn't really amount to anything considering it's the press, so we had to wait for player reviews. And the game was an abomination. While previous games had been mediocre for a while, they weren't, let's say, insulting. Like Assassin's Creed Valhalla was just boring, but it wasn't an insultingly bad game. This one felt like someone at Ubisoft snorted too much wine and let his hatred for Japan run rampant. Does any of this matter for the things that I will talk about in this video? No, not at all. I just wanted to start by insulting that game, because that's always fun. Anyway, with the recent announcement of the Black Flag remake and it looking not great, I decided to take a look back at basically the biggest thing to come out of this franchise, that being the Ezio Trilogy.
So that was a fucking lie. I hate it when this happens. This is like my 4th time rewriting the script and my 2nd time recording part 1. I love wasting 2 hours of my life, don't you guys? The reason why is because originally I meant for this to be only the Ezio Trilogy, but it ends on a cliffhanger. But then I thought, okay, what about a Desmond pentalogy? Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, and then 3. Surely that would be enough, right? Surely the story, the big one, let's say, ends in 3, right? All of this just to say, I could do another Mass Effect style video with Assassin's Creed. Is it worth it? Probably not. Too much time for negative return. Do I want to? Also no. The Mass Effect video was a passion project, but I'm never doing something like that ever again. Now, when I mean Mass Effect style, I mean it. I mean comics, novels, mangas, manhwas, TV shows, movies, all of that with information relevant to the story. And so I decided, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just divide it into those that, realistically, share a main point between them. And so, for the moment, my intentions are to do the first video with the Ezio Trilogy, then do another one with what I like to call the Kenway Trilogy, that being obviously 3, Black Flag and Rogue, then maybe, and this is a big maybe, I will do the rest. I still don't know. So yeah, also this isn't really gonna be a super deep dive into the lore of Assassin's Creed. This will be more of a nostalgic look at what once was. A franchise with a lot of charms, lots of problems as well, but charming nonetheless, and as we go forward in time, we will see its prostitution and fall from grace. So welcome to this 5th video in this series of mine and the first of the Assassin's Creed franchise, and let's have a look at 3 of the most famous games of all time, with one of the most famous protagonists to ever grace the gaming world. This is the story of Ezio Auditore. The development of Assassin's Creed 2 was confirmed to have begun by Yves Guillemot on November 2008, following the success that was the original Assassin's Creed. The game was followed closely by a lot of people, including leakers, which some of them said that the game was gonna be based in the French Revolution, which obviously turned out to be false. The game released multiple trailers, and even a 3-chapter short story following Ezio's father on YouTube as a way to get people interested in the game. It officially released in November 2009, and by the end of 2010, it had sold 9 million copies, one of the fastest selling games of all time. Now the question that some of you might be asking yourselves is, was it that good? The story begins immediately after Assassin's Creed 1. Now, I'm not gonna play Assassin's Creed 1, the big reason is because playing this game was already hard enough, as it hasn't aged the best. But realistically, you don't miss much by skipping the first one, as everything important that happens in the story of that game is retold in this one and the following 2. The story follows Desmond Miles, a descendant of important members of the Brotherhood of Assassins, a group of people fighting against the Templars, known in the modern age as Abstergo Industries. These 2 groups are 2 sides of the same coin. The Assassins want peace for the world by free will, by freedom, by allowing people to be whatever they want to be, with whatever consequences come of that, while the Templars follow a much more harsh doctrine. They believe that humanity must be controlled, must be led in a certain direction, all to avoid doom and destruction. Now this fight between the two has allegedly been going on for hundreds of years, and that's why Desmond was kidnapped, as Abstergo managed to create a machine called the Animus, capable of allowing descendants of certain blood to use it to see into the past, by leaving that ancestor's memories. This is a basic rundown of pretty much every Assassin's Creed story. Someone sits on the Animus, and they use it to see one of their ancestors, most of them being, well, assassins, though there are exceptions here and there. Now, for what purpose does Abstergo want to use these memories? To find certain objects. These objects are ancient. Very, very ancient and powerful. You should see where this is going. Now, there is a problem with telling you the story of these games, and it's that, realistically, the story that happens with Ezio doesn't matter. The games feel like a collection of small stories, glued together to create a bigger one, with the story of each game realistically just being consequences of the actions of both sides, and a bit of retelling of real-life story. Anyway, the first thing that happens is that this woman, named Lucy, which appeared in the first game, aids us in escaping Abstergo, and presents us to these two, Sean and Rebecca, who will help us see into the memories of one, Ezio Auditore da Firenze, an important member of the Assassins and one of the first people to ever interact with the artifacts after Altair did a couple hundred years prior. The game actually begins with his birth, and it immediately shows us a problem. The gameplay of this game is extremely outdated. What button is the feed button? No matter, surely the menu will allow us to change that in a coherent and not at all confusing manner, right? You know, leaving aside the fact that the controls are in Spanish, what the fuck is button 2? Or any of these buttons for that matter. Also, why is my camera only moving horizontally with my triggers? Which, by the way, the game stopped detecting them the moment I changed my controls to the ones that made sense. Anyway, once that is sorted out, we can actually begin Ezio's story. Now, the story of Ezio in the first game is a story of him getting used to being an assassin, as a conspiracy manages to put his two brothers and father to death by hanging, making Ezio discover what the Brotherhood is. I am going to focus on the gameplay aspects much more in this game than the rest, because not much happens in the story. As his father and family is being sentenced, Ezio is sent to his father's room to recover the classic assassin's clothing. He is now forced to escape Firenze, but not before being taught something important, so we get a couple of game tutorials, including the best part about this game, the stealth. While the combat might not be that amazing specifically in this entry, while the movement in general is a bit wonky, the stealth and parkour of these games is quite good, especially the former. You can blend with crowds and sit in benches to try to hide your presence from the enemy, allowing you to either take them out while incognito or just pass through them. And later down the line you can even hire some crowds, like prostitutes, bandits or thieves, to distract said guards. If there is one thing that these games do better than the older ones, is the feeling of being hidden among the crowd, which is how an assassin should act. Anyway, we escape from Roma to go to his uncle's villa. Now sadly, something I realized quite late is that I had the audio track in a different track than the recorded one, so I basically had no audio, so I misrecorded one of the funniest things in this game, and it's the introduction of Ezio's uncle.
Keep the sword, Ezio. Do I know you from somewhere? Don't you recognize me? It's me, Mario!
Now from here on out, the game opens up, allowing you to, for example, upgrade your uncle's villa by spending money, making it so that you get money passively, something that would become common practice in this trilogy. Mario then proceeds to train Ezio in combat, and then the story starts skipping. This game has numerous time skips, because the story takes place in a span of 10 years, and the story has multiple 6-year time skips or something like that. Each and every time skip serves as a way for Ezio to train his assassin skills and go to gain allies in each of the cities he visits, mainly San Gimignano, Forlì, and Venice. One of said allies was introduced at the beginning of the game, this very minor character called Leonardo da Vinci. He is a pivotal character in this game and in the next, as he is the one that more or less upgrades your hidden blade through pages passed down from Altair that are scattered at every city you visit. As the years go by, Ezio hunts each and every man that was part of the conspiracy that got his father and brothers killed, ultimately leading to Rodrigo Borgia, a real-life man that would one day become Pope, known as Alexander VI. By 1488, Ezio had managed to discover that Rodrigo actually had an artifact known as the Apple, an artifact similar to the one that Altair had discovered ages ago. Rodrigo studied this apple and believed himself to be the prophet mentioned in the documentation of said artifact, which led him to discover the vault, where more artifacts lay hidden. As Ezio and Rodrigo get into a fight, Ezio is mostly about to win, when the guards allow Rodrigo to hold against Ezio, which is when all of the friends that Ezio had made in the past 10 years appear, which makes Rodrigo flee in terror, leaving behind the apple. All of these guys declare themselves assassins and officially introduce Ezio to the Brotherhood. Among these guys is Niccolò Machiavelli. He believes, actually they all do, that the actual prophet is Ezio, and that this will allow the assassins to be the ones to find the vault, and not the Templars. After all of this, Desmond decides to take a break and see if the bleeding effect has done something to his own assassin's abilities. The bleeding effect is a consequence of the overuse of the Animus, which is one of the main things Desmond wanted to do with Lucy. She wanted him to abuse the bleeding effect to gain the abilities of Ezio, as the number of assassins in the real world dwindles more and more by the day. This also allows me to explain another thing that it is in the game, and it's these glyphs. These glyphs, as discovered by Rebecca, were planted by Subject 16, the subject previous to Desmond. He hacked the Animus to place hidden information inside these glyphs. Each and every single one has a puzzle hidden inside them. Some of them are actually really hard. They all reveal important information, whether it is about the past, as in very old days, or more recent. Like for example, Edison fucking over Tesla was actually a plot by the Templars in this universe, as Edison was a Templar and didn't want electricity to be free for everybody. Which does highlight how the Templars pretty much control the world in modern times, as many, if not all powerful people in history, were Templars. What you get, once you find all these glyphs, is this.
Eve!
Look out!
I will explain everything later. As Desmond gets back into the Animus, they discover that Ezio's memories are corrupted, and they skipped to 1499, where Rodrigo Borgia managed to position himself as Pope. And as you are told to go back to your uncle's villa to continue with the story, this happens.
What's going on?
The data stream is corrupted. No, scratch that. This says it's incomplete. It's the codex pages. It looks like Ezio had them all when this memory occurred.
Great. And how am I supposed to find them?
Hold on. It looks like Ezio has a map on him. He must have picked it up during one of the corrupted sequences. According to this, it'll show you the location of any missing codex pages.
So originally I had thought that the pages scattered throughout the game were optional. Well, they weren't, and you have to find all 30 of them to continue with the game and get the ending. Granted, I only had to find 16 of them because the other 14 you get automatically. Once Ezio and friends managed to get all 30 pages, they discovered that the vault is actually in the Vatican, which is the reason why Rodrigo became Pope. They also discovered that the papal staff, which Rodrigo has, is another of those artifacts, and he is, allegedly, aiming to use it to enter the vault. We then go to the Vatican to kill him, and we get a bit of cliché happening where you think you won, but oh no surprise you actually didn't, and so Rodrigo escapes with both the apple and the staff. Ezio rushes after him and they both end in the vault, which would not open for Rodrigo. And we get the final boss of the game, a fistfight with the Pope. Ezio obviously wins, but doesn't kill Rodrigo, something he would come to regret later in his life. And then he proceeds to enter the vault, where a lot of information gets revealed. So get ready for the lore dump I'm about to give you. 70,000 years ago, there existed an advanced civilization known as the Isu. This name wasn't revealed until later games, but I'm just gonna give it to you, because otherwise it's gonna get annoying and it might sleep later. This civilization was far more advanced than anything we have today, and they created multiple artifacts throughout their history. And they also created humans, which were used as workforce. Now obviously, this led to insubordination from the humans, which is what we see with Adam and Eve in that video, as they were the two leaders of humanity. Now the war between the Isu and humans lasted years, but ultimately the humans won, because while the Isu had the power, the humans had the number. But none of that mattered, as a catastrophic event ended up wiping almost all humans and Isu. After this event, both human and Isu worked together to save the world, and the Isu ended up sealing themselves in temples so that one day another similar event might not occur. and due to their calculations, they found a way to communicate with the future. These guys are almost omniscient. Yes, Minerva, as the one in front of Ezio is called, then proceeds to communicate with Desmond, telling him that he needs to stop the destruction of the world. Ezio, dumbstruck by all of this and not understanding anything, proceeds to ask her, but she tells him to shut up, as he is only there to allow Minerva to communicate with Desmond. Once Desmond is out of the Animus, Abstergo found their location, which prompts Lucy to give Desmond a hidden blade, and they both are met by this guy, Warren Vidic, a member of the Inner Sanctum of the Templar, also known as the Nine. You get how these things go, 9 powerful individuals, the top of the organization, but at the same time not the highest order, etc, etc. The game ends with Organ escaping the hideout and Lucy theorizing on what Minerva might be referring to. She theorizes that she was talking about, and I quote, Earth's geomagnetics reversal, which will be detrimental not only instantaneously, but also for the future of the planet. And credits roll. Honestly, this first game is the worst one of the 3. I would still say that if you can, give it a try, it is genuinely a good game, and while outdated, it has features that not even the newer games have, which makes it unique on their own. The game also features these 6 dungeons, mainly parkour ones, meant to challenge you to get all 6 necessary pieces to obtain Altair's armor, from the vault underneath Mortelligi. And these vaults are the best thing of the game. They are really well made, they aren't super hard, but it's still cool nonetheless. Honestly, this is one of the best things of the Ezio Trilogy, and it's the main theme. It's so fucking good, man. Sadly, I didn't hear it in Assassin's Creed 3, but I do remember seeing it in at least Odyssey, I think. So barely a couple, hell, weeks after the release of Assassin's Creed 2, Ubisoft already started on Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. This genuinely feels like Call of Duty, but instead of 3 themes, it's 1. Point being, it only took them a year to release this game, so the changes were minimum. But they were meaningful enough that from a pure gameplay perspective, I gotta say this game is just miles better over the first one. This game introduced a core mechanic, a kind of passive ability, let's say, and it was the chain killing, because when you get a kill, you can aim at another enemy and instantly kill them, as long as they aren't an elite enemy. This game also got rid of upgrading Maria's villa, instead you now repair the entirety of Rome with the objective of gaining influence. And they also introduced teleport waypoints, in the form of these tunnels that you have to fix first. Overall, there weren't that many more changes. If anything, the PC port is actually acceptable and the controls actually make sense and I didn't have to change them. Also, surprisingly, I have yet to find massive bugs in this game. I don't know how. The game begins immediately after the end of Assassin's Creed 2, as Ezio leaves the vault of Minerva to find out that Rodrigo fled, without the staff, which Ezio tries to pick up only for it to get sealed underground. Mario then proceeds to call for his nephew and they both escape the Vatican. Ezio, not knowing what to do with the apple, gives it to Mario for safekeeping. We then go back to Monteriggioni, where Ezio and Caterina go to bed together, which she later says was for political purposes, but like, this goes nowhere. Also, Caterina's this one woman that Ezio saved during the first game, but like, she doesn't really matter. Like, she matters more in this game than in the first one, which is kinda funny. Anyway, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, an army of Templars was sitting outside of Monteriggioni and laid siege to the villa, killing Mario in the process, along with capturing Caterina and taking the apple. This army was led by our new villain, Cesare Borgia, the son of Rodrigo Borgia. Desmond then wakes up in the back of a van on his way to Monteriggioni, where a bunch of visions can be seen of Ezio coming back later in his life, all while Desmond and Lucy try to find a way to go inside so that Abstergo cannot find them. One of the things that Desmond finds is an inscription in the wall, with the numbers 1419, 1420 and 1421. Ezio proceeds to wake up in Roma, and after talking with Machiavelli, he sees that Rome is in disarray and under the complete and total control of the Borgia. And he also stumbles across the followers of Romulus from the myth of Romulus and Remus. These are optional little dungeons that replace the Assassin's Tombs that the previous game had. I didn't really do any of them except for the mandatory tutorial one, but they are there. To rid Rome of Borgia influence, he tries to make the big guilds of the city work together, mainly the courtesans, which will be led by Ezio's sister Claudia later down the line, the thieves, led by La Volpe, an information broker that appeared in the previous game, and the mercenaries, led by Bartolomeo Dalviano, another character from the previous game. Ezio also tries to rebuild the Brotherhood, by a new game mechanic where you can recruit assassins and send them on missions across Europe to level them up. It's a cool little mechanic that also helps gameplay wise, as Ezio can call them to join him in battle. In this game, the zones aren't just free, and instead you have to liberate towers that are occupied by the Borgia, allowing you to buy the stores around said tower and reducing Borgia influence in the area. Leonardo appears in this game, once again, this time with more of his crazy creations, with his tank, his turrets and his flying machines, all of which Ezio proceeds to destroy. He also allows you to upgrade your hidden blade, but this time without the pages. So Cesare has a sister, and his sister has a plaything named Pietro Rossi. He holds a key to Castel Sant'Angelo, and Ezio needs it to access it to kill Rodrigo and Cesare later down the line, and also rescue Catarina. So we get a mission to basically kill a guy called Micheletto, who is Cesare's assassin that was meant to kill Pietro, and in saving his life, he gives us the key. Once all of this is done, Claudia gets introduced to the assassins, and Ezio becomes the mentor of the Italian Brotherhood. Ezio proceeds to infiltrate the castle, where multiple things happen. Cesare poisons his own father. Granted, he is illegitimate, but that's beside the point, and you can see the incestuous feelings that Lucrezia has for her brother. Anyway, Cesare finds the location of the apple from Lucrezia, but Ezio manages to find it before him, using it to basically render Cesare's army useless. Cesare proceeds to try to escape, not before being arrested by Fabio Orsini, under orders of the new pope, but he is taken away while screaming that he will not be held in prison for long.
Chains will not hold me! I will not die by the hand of man!
Which worries Ezio, so Leonardo suggests to Ezio using the apple to find out if it is true. And Ezio does, and confirms that he will in fact not remain in prison for long. By 1507, Ezio tracks Cesare to Vienna, Spain, which is where the game started, which I forgot to mention. Ezio manages to defeat Cesare's army and defeat him, but he says that he will not die by the hands of man, so Ezio proceeds to throw him down the fort to leave him in the hands of fate.
Then I leave you in the hands of fate.
I'm sorry, while this is super corny, I cannot help but think this is so cool of him. Immediately after this, we get a memory of Ezio sealing the apple underneath Santa Maria Aracoeli. Now the memory reveals that we will need a password, and Rebecca says that it has to be a voice one. But immediately the power goes off. Desmond then remembers that the symbol he saw on the door was the same he saw in that wall, and with the 3 numbers from before, Sean manages to deduce that they reference the Tetragrammaton, the 72 names of God, deducing that the password to the door is the number 72. And it is. They drive to the Colosseum and proceed to enter the vault. There, our merry crew finds Juno, another one of those who came before. She tells us that the eagle vision is actually a 6th sense that some humans have because of the interbreeding between humanity and the ancient civilization. But anyway, in the vault we find what we came here for, but as Desmond touches it, something happens. Symbols start appearing, and Sean proceeds to say that the Phrygian cap and the Masonic eye appear only in one place. But just as he is saying that, the apple takes control of Desmond, which makes him use his blade to stab Lucy in the abdomen, both falling, one to his death and the other in shock. And the game ends with 2 voices belonging to William Miles, Desmond's father, and Harlan Cunningham, where William tells the other to put Desmond back in the Animus, even though it has affected him severely already, says Harlan, but Bill believes he will live it through, which goes to show what a shitty relationship these two have. And that's it. This game has a gigantic number of minimal challenges that make the game experience much more rewarding, and this one I actually encourage everyone to play. I think it's better in every single way than the first one, though it is shorter by a margin. We also have the glyphs in this game, though the challenges in this game change to be much more difficult and much more cryptic. This time there's only 10 of them, and what you get is a video called The Truth. Throughout these glyphs you can hear the voice, the AI that I'm guessing is inside the Animus, gaining sentience, and by the end it is revealed that the one behind it was Subject 16, and he tells you that she is a liar. Who is he referring to? Well, we never find out, because the main writer for these games got fired mid-Brotherhood production, and by Assassin's Creed 3 you can tell very hard that it was a retcon. Allegedly, and take this with a grain of salt, Lucy wasn't meant to be killed off, The only reason she did was because the actress for her model got fired mid-production. Another one of the alleged things, and while this might be a stretch, this was 16 years ago, Ubisoft didn't want to push the whole conspiracy with the issue and humans and the fact that they were genetically modified and all of that, for fear of actually influencing real-life people. It does sound stupid, but I can actually see Ubisoft genuinely believing that. Now this is going to be a massive stretch, but bear with me for a second. I think that what Ubisoft had intended originally with these games, or not Ubisoft but the original writer of the series, was to not divide Brotherhood and Revelations and instead give us a story that would later become a chess game between Desmond and Juno, in a battle against time through time. In Assassin's Creed 2, when Desmond gets out of the Animus to test the effect of the bleeding effects, he sees visions of Altair and Maria Thorpe, without being in the Animus. Allegedly, this was a hint for a future development where Desmond would develop the ability to see onto the past without the use of the Animus. Anyway, this game also sold extremely well. 7 months later, it had already sold 7 million units, and it became Ubisoft's fastest European selling of all time. Did you guys know this game was originally meant to be a 3DS game? It was called Lost Legacy, and the plot had Ezio go to Masyaf and discover the origins of the Assassin Order, but it got cancelled and developed into Assassin's Creed Revelations. The game ended up releasing just a year after Brotherhood, way too fast in my opinion, and this game is the one that's the shortest for obvious reasons. The game begins immediately where we left off in Brotherhood, while Desmond in a coma due to the shock of killing Lucy. Desmond wakes up in the black room of the Animus. I don't really know what it is, I'm just gonna guess it's something like the kernel, and in there he meets with the subject 16, whose name is Clay. I am not even gonna try to pronounce his surname. He explains that for Desmond to stay alive, he must trigger a sync nexus with Ezio. The sync nexus is basically when the modern time person saw everything he had to see from the ancestors' past. They don't really explain how it works, they just say that it does, so I mean it's science fiction, who cares. The story starts with Ezio, now in his mid-50s, traveling to Masyaf after discovering a letter from his father where allegedly there should be a library with all of Altair's knowledge in there, but the fortress is occupied by Templars, and this guy, Leandros, and his team managed to overwhelm Ezio and attempt to execute him, which of course doesn't work. Ezio searches for the library immediately after escaping, but it requires 5 keys to be opened. Leandro's team actually found one, and the book he has on him should have some important details about the location of the others, so it's chase time, and we kill Leandros, take the key and the book, and set off for Constantinople. In the boat on the way there we meet this young man, whose name is hidden for now, but will be important later. Upon docking, he met with Yusuf Tazim, the leader of the Assassin Guild of Constantinople. The most important thing this guy gives you is the hook blade, which basically makes parkouring much easier as it allows you to reach further ledges and climb faster. The game also features a new mechanic, a sort of tower defense where you can place muskets and crossbowmen and leaders to regain speed to deploy more units. The game also has bombs, which allow you to distract the opponent and kill some in smaller or bigger areas. I didn't use them much, I'm gonna be honest. Needs to find the old trading post of Niccolò and Maffeo Polo, the father and uncle of Marco Polo respectively. Now a bookshop owned by Sofia Sartor. Inside this bookshop was the Yerebatan Cistern, where Templars were searching for the key, but Ezio manages to beat them to it, and he finds them up telling him the location of the other books to decipher the location of the keys. So he strikes a deal. If Sofia helps decipher the books, she can then print copies of said books. In the middle of his search, Ezio learns of an assassination attempt on the prince, so him and Yusuf help stop it, and it turns out the prince was the guy he met at the boat earlier, Suleiman I. Later, Suleiman proceeds to tell Ezio of the perpetrator of the attempt, the Janissary captain Tariq Barletti. Ezio then learned that Tariq was working with Manuel Palaiologos, the former heir of the Byzantine throne, so Suleiman asks him to kill Tariq. Upon doing so, Tariq reveals to Ezio that he never intended to betray the throne, and instead he was gaining Manuel's favor so that he would stab him in the back later on. He entrusts Ezio with continuing his mission. Throughout the game, your objective is to find each and every key, and each one held memories of Altair. The first memory shown was of Altair saving Masyaf from the traitor Haras. The second one showed the passing of their mentor Al-Mualim, whom Altair was forced to kill after he became obsessed with an apple of Eden and betrayed the Assassin Order. though this did not come without its drawbacks, as Abbas, another assassin, saw this as Ezio betraying the Brotherhood and stealing the apple, but it's too powerful for him to use, so he goes on a rampage and Ezio manages to stop him. The third memory is the hardest one. After defeating Genghis Khan's army, he returns home to find that his proxy as mentor had been usurped by Abbas, and one of his sons, Sev, was killed by Abbas' right-hand man, believing that his father ordered the assassination. After confronting Abbas, Altair kills Swami and is about to kill Abbas, but Maria, in a cliché moment, stops him and she dies in the hands of Abbas. He proceeds to escape Masyaf, and in his fourth memory we see him return years later in 1247, where, along with many assassins who had grown tired of Abbas's reign, he manages to defeat the Loyalists and kills Abbas with his new hidden gun, which is just the hidden pistol. In the Black Island, Desmond also has interactions with Clay, where he says what happened to him wasn't so different than what happened to Desmond, but he couldn't trigger a sync nexus, not that it mattered, because his body was already 6 foot deep. Ezio proceeds to reach Cappadocia, where Manuel's army is, with the help of Piri Reis. Yes, the guy that created one of the most used items for conspiracy theories, even though it's just fucking sideways. In Cappadocia, he meets with Dilara, Tariq's informant. She is eventually captured, and Ezio learns that she and many other people are being held by a guy named Shahulu. After rescuing her, Ezio knows that Shahulu is about to beat one of her men to death, so Ezio kills him before he could do that, and sets off an explosion big enough inside the city to get Manuel's attention. Although endangering the life of everyone inside, Ezio proceeds to give chase to Manuel, and kills him, retrieving the last book to find the last key. Just then, Ahmed appears out of nowhere, Suleiman's uncle. We had seen him a couple of times and he always seemed fishy. He tells Ezio to give him all the keys, but as Ezio says no, he threatens him with killing Sofia Sartor, and sees the last of Altair's memory, where he gives his codex to Niccolo Polo, and tells him to hide the key so that the ones that should see them could find them. Ezio returned to Sofia's bookshop, where he found multiple assassins dead, including Yusuf, and I'm gonna pause here. So these games make a big deal out of these deaths, and while Yusuf is probably the one that hurts the most, it's not nearly enough for at least me to care about it. Like, yeah, I like the guy, but I talked with him like twice throughout the game. You gotta give me more to actually care. Anyway, Yusuf had a message on him through a knife. Ezio, filled with rage, proceeds to find Ahmed and threaten him, but he says he will only release Sofia if he gives him the 5 keys by Galata Tower. Suleiman then appears and tells him to stop Ahmed without killing him, if possible. Ezio proceeds to give the 5 keys to Ahmed, as he is threatening to kill Sofia from the top of Galata Tower. He proceeds to climb it to save her, but it was only a decoy, and the real Sofia was about to be hanged somewhere else. Not that it matters because Ezio reaches in time, and both Ezio and Sofia proceed to give chase to Ahmed in what I think is the worst section in the game, because Ezio is in a parachute most of it, and it lasts way too long. Anyway, Ezio obviously recovers all 5 keys and contemplated what to do with Ahmed. Then suddenly, Selim I appears, now having been appointed Sultan, and kills Ahmed by throwing him off the cliff. He then threatens Ezio if he ever returns to Constantinople. Ezio is just about to kill him in rage, and Sofia stops him. Everybody then leaves the scene. Desmond returns once more to Animus Island, where the deletion process began, and Clay hugs him and sacrifices himself so that Desmond does not get deleted. Ezio and Sofia arrive at Masyaf, where Ezio explains of the Brotherhood and their creed. Ezio proceeds to enter the library after solving a simple puzzle, only to find the library empty of books, and only the remains of Altair in one chair remained, holding the last of the keys. This key had the last of Altair's memory, where he told Darim, his other son, to empty the castle and leave before the Mongolians return. He then proceeds to lock himself in the library, hiding the apple given to him, and sitting down to pass away peacefully at the age of 92. Once close to the Apple of Eden, he decides to leave it there and then throws his hidden blade, signifying his retirement and his wish to stay with Sofia for the rest of his life. There, the apple activated, and Ezio speaks with Desmond, where he accepted the fact that he was a proxy for a message not meant for him. An apparition of Desmond appears in front of Ezio, don't really know how, which Ezio proceeds to touch, triggering the Sync Nexus. After all of that, Desmond met with Jupiter, the last of the Isu, telling him a message that during their time they created multiple temples, each meant to find information about the future calamity, and sent that information to the Grand Temple, which ultimately failed and almost caused the extinction of the Isu and humanity. Jupiter then shows the location of the Grand Temple to Desmond, which was in New York. Desmond then wakes up, being greeted by his father, Sean and Rebecca, where he says he knows what to do, and they go to the Grand Temple, but that is a story for another video. And that's it for all 3 Ezio games. This one I would say is the worst one, it's also the most bare-bone one as they removed the glyphs, but I did have multiplayer for some reason. The game improved in some aspects, as mentioned before, the hook was one of them. Ezio's eagle vision evolved into the eagle sense, where he can now track his enemies' paths. The Borgia towers, in this case, were replaced with Assassin's Dens, which once reclaimed by Ezio, can be claimed once again by the Templars if Ezio's notoriety reaches max, which then starts the tower defense minigame I talked about earlier. The recruiting system was improved a bit, though it doesn't differ much from the previous one. The game also added world features like stalkers, which attack you from time to time. You can also take fight requests from some random people in the streets, or you can also help people. It's not a bad system. Problem is, they removed a lot of things. The glyphs, for example, as you communicate with Clay in the Animus Island, the glyphs were not needed, so we didn't get many puzzles. The Assassin's Tombs or Romulus Lairs obviously don't exist, but they didn't get replaced by anything meaningful. But we did get the Templar's Lairs again, which is something, I guess. It's the shortest game in the franchise, and the fact that it ended in a cliffhanger for the future of Desmond is quite annoying for this video specifically. But anyway, I'm sure some of you have a question. Well, what happened to Ezio? These games are terrible at ending their character stories, like for example Raton Hakedon or Connor, which is the protagonist of Assassin's Creed 3, just doesn't have an ending to his story in the games. Altair died in the games, in form of memories, in Revelations, but we saw his final moments. Even some other characters just die off screen, like Edward Kenway, the protagonist of Black Flag, is dead by the time Assassin's Creed 3 starts. But anyway, we do actually get to see Ezio's ending in a movie called Assassin's Creed Embers. Ezio and Sofia actually had 2 sons, called Marcello and Flavia, and this movie centers around his time with his family while trying to avoid another assassin called Xiao Jun, who had come to Italy from China to ask for his help in restoring her order. It's the classic "no, I don't want to help" until he gets forced to help, basically because Xiao Jun is being prosecuted by Chinese assassins. The only important part really is the ending. Ezio, Sofia and Flavia went to Florence. Where is Marcello? He was actually never shown in the movie, funnily enough. There, he sat on a bench, and a young man sat beside him, berating the women of Florence. Ezio then reprimanded him, and the man leaves. Ezio looks at his wife and daughter and smiles, and they look back, but with disbelief. As Ezio proceeds to die, at the age of 65 in Florence. You might be thinking, did the young man kill Ezio? We do not know, like genuinely, we don't know. Allegedly, according to Abstergo in later years, they believe it was him who killed Ezio, but nobody knows for certain. He does have a Templar logo on his vambras. The way he talks and looks is interesting. He looks exactly like Ezio, but mirror, as his car is on the other side. Now, I believe this to be a reference to the fact that assassins and Templars will always be fighting. He also says that the women in Firenze are like grapes that aren't ripe yet. Ezio in this movie owns a grape farm with his family. Now, this could very well signify that the two women that are with Ezio aren't ripe yet, aka not the Templar's target. When the man grabs Ezio's arm or when he puts his hand on his shoulder, some people, allegedly, I couldn't hear anything, hear a metallic sound, allegedly that of an object that would inject Ezio with a fast-acting poison. Is this all confirmed? No, but it does sound much more plausible than what other people believe, that guy being Ezio's younger self. And that's it for Ezio's story. All in all, these were 3 great games with one of the coolest characters in gaming, though a bit edgy at times, and for being as old as they are, they have aged decently well, except the first one. I would recommend all 3 games to anybody that wants to play a great series. If you have reached this point in the video, thank you very much, and I'm very sorry about the time it took to release this one. I've been busy with real life, and I also played Persona 3, 4, Red Dead Redemption 2 and a bunch of their games, and I wasn't really gonna make videos on them, and that's on me. I don't like playing more than 1 game at a time, so I basically duped myself into not doing this video earlier. So yeah, thanks for watching and see you in the next video, which I still don't know what it will be. By the way, I've been saying movie, but it's like 20 minutes long. It's on YouTube, officially. You can go and watch it if you want. The animation is quite weird.